Welcome to what truly matters. There's a particular kind of darkness that settles over your life, not all at once, but gradually, like a fog rolling in from the sea. You don't notice it at first. You're too busy living, moving, surviving. But one day, you wake up and realize you can't remember the last time you felt truly alive. The last time you laughed without forcing it. The last time you looked forward to tomorrow. This darkness whispers lies in your quietest moments. It tells you this is permanent, that you've lost, something you'll never get back, that the person you used to be is gone forever, and all that remains is this hollow shell going through the motions. But here's what darkness doesn't want you to know. It's a liar. Darkness makes promises it cannot keep. It swears it will last forever, but it never does. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, or because pain magically disappears, but because of something far more powerful, something that exists in the very fabric of human resilience. Today, I want to share a story with you. A story about someone who descended into that darkness and believed she would never find her way out. But she did, and in doing so, she discovered a truth that changed everything. This is a story about why darkness doesn't last forever. When everything falls apart. Sophia Collins was 32 years old when her life collapsed. It didn't happen dramatically like in the movies. No single catastrophic event that clearly divided before and after. Instead, it was a series of losses, each one building on the last until the weight became unbearable. First, there was her job. After 7 years of dedication at a marketing firm, she was let go during restructuring. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. Professional, polite, devastating. Just like that, her career, the thing she'd built her identity around, was gone. "You'll find something better," her boyfriend Michael said that night, barely looking up from his phone. This might be a blessing in disguise, but it didn't feel like a blessing. It felt like failure. Sophia threw herself into job hunting with desperate energy. She sent out dozens of applications, rewrote her resume 7 times, practiced interview answers in the mirror. But weeks turned into months and the rejections piled up. Too experienced, not experienced enough, not the right fit. We've decided to move forward with other candidates. Each rejection was a small death. The bills kept coming. Her savings dwindled. She started avoiding her parents' phone calls because she couldn't bear to tell them she still hadn't found anything. She stopped meeting friends for coffee because she couldn't afford it and was too proud to say so. And then, 6 months into her unemployment, Michael left. "I can't do this anymore, Sophia," he said, packing his clothes into a duffel bag while she stood frozen in the doorway. "You've become someone I don't recognize. You're sad all the time. You've given up. I need to take care of myself." She wanted to scream at him, to tell him that she was drowning and he was choosing to let go of her hand. But instead, she just nodded, because a part of her agreed with him. She had become someone she didn't recognize. After he left, the apartment felt cavernous and silent. Sophia spent the next 3 weeks barely leaving her bed. She stopped answering her phone entirely. She lived on cereal and frozen pizza, ordering groceries online to avoid human contact. Her apartment became a cave of drawn curtains and unwashed dishes. The darkness that had been creeping in for months finally swallowed her whole. Depression, her therapist would later call it. But in those moments, Sophia didn't have a name for it. She only knew that she was tired, so desperately tired, and that the weight of simply existing felt unbearable. It was 3 a.m. on a Thursday when Sophia found herself standing on her apartment balcony, looking down at the street below. She wasn't thinking about jumping. Not exactly, but she also wasn't not thinking about it. She was thinking about how easy it would be to just stop. To stop fighting. To stop disappointing everyone. To stop being this version of herself she hated. The city was quiet except for the distant sound of a siren. And then her phone rang. She almost didn't answer. It was probably a spam call anyway. But something, maybe just habit, maybe something deeper, made her reach for it. Hello? Her voice sounded strange. She realized she hadn't spoken out, loud, in 3 days. Sophia! Oh, thank God, it's Mom. Sophia closed her eyes. Hi, Mom. Honey, I've been so worried. You haven't been returning my calls. Are you okay? The concern in her mother's voice broke something open inside her. Suddenly, Sophia was crying, deep, wrenching sobs that she'd been holding back for months. No, she whispered. No, Mom, I'm not okay. I'm not okay at all. Tell me where you are. I'm coming to get you. You're 4 hours away. I don't care. Tell me where you are. The first light Sophia's mother arrived at sunrise. She didn't lecture. She didn't say, I told you so, or everything happens for a reason, or any of the empty platitudes people offer when they don't know what else to say. She simply held her daughter while Sophia cried, stroked her hair like she was 5 years old again, and said, You're not alone. You hear me? You're not doing this alone anymore. They spent that first day cleaning the apartment together, opening curtains, letting light in. It felt both mundane and monumental, washing dishes, taking out garbage, putting fresh sheets on the bed. Small steps, her mother said. That's all we're focusing on today. Small steps. That night, Sophia's mother made soup, real soup, not from a can, and they ate together at the kitchen table. Sophia couldn't remember the last time she'd had a proper meal sitting down. I feel like I've failed at everything, Sophia said quietly, staring into her bowl. My career, my relationship, my life. I don't know how to come back from this. Her mother reached across the table and took her hand. Baby, you haven't failed. You've been through something hard. There's a difference. And darkness? She squeezed Sophia's hand. Darkness is just the absence of light. It doesn't last forever, because light always finds a way back in. Sophia wanted to believe her, but she wasn't sure she could. Small steps, slow progress. Her mother stayed for a week, and in that week, they established a big routine. Wake up, make the bed, shower, get dressed, eat breakfast. Small, simple tasks that most people do without thinking. But for Sophia, each one was a victory. Her mother helped her update her resume and set up meetings with a career counselor. They went for walks in the park, short ones at first, just 15 minutes, because that's all Sophia could manage without feeling overwhelmed. You don't have to run a marathon, her mother reminded her. You just have to take the next step. After her mother left, Sophia had to learn to do these things alone. Some days were better than others. Some days she managed the full routine. Other days she only made it out of bed by noon, and that had to be enough. She started therapy. It was harder than she expected, sitting in that chair, admitting out loud all the ways she was struggling. But her therapist, Dr. Martinez, never made her feel weak for it. Depression lies to you, Dr. Martinez explained in one session. It tells you that you're worthless, that nothing will ever get better, that you're a burden. But Sophia, those are lies. The truth is that you're human, you're hurting, and you're doing something incredibly brave by showing up here each week. Sophia also joined a support group for people dealing with unemployment and depression. She almost didn't go to the first meeting. She sat in her car outside the community center for 20 minutes, hands shaking, before forcing herself to walk in. There were 8 people in the circle that first night. 8 strangers with their own stories of loss and struggle. When it was her turn to speak, Sophia's voice trembled. "I'm Sophia, and I lost my job almost a year ago. Then my boyfriend left, and I've spent the last few months just disappearing. This is the first time I've gone somewhere that wasn't my therapist's office or the grocery store." A woman across the circle nodded with recognition. "That took courage. Thank you for being here." Sophia felt something shift inside her, just slightly, just enough. Finding purpose in the small things. 3 months into therapy, 3 months into the support group, Sophia still didn't have a job. She still had bad days where getting out of bed felt impossible. But something was changing. She started volunteering at a local food bank. It was only 4 hours a week, but it gave her a reason to leave the house, to be around people, to feel useful again. One afternoon, she was sorting donated canned goods when a young mother came in with 2 small children. The woman looked exhausted, overwhelmed. Sophia helped her shop, carrying boxes to her car, chatting about nothing important, just weather and holidays, and how fast kids grow up. As the woman was leaving, she turned back and said, "Thank you. You made this feel less shameful." Sophia understood exactly what she meant. She'd felt that shame too. The shame of needing help, of not being able to do it all alone. "You're just doing what you need to do to take care of your family," Sophia said. "There's no shame in that." The woman smiled, small but genuine, and drove away. That night, Sophia cried again, but this time they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of connection, of being reminded that everyone is fighting their own battle, that helping someone else, even in a small way, created meaning. The unexpected turn. It was at the food bank that Sophia met James. He was a retired teacher who volunteered every Tuesday and Thursday, always arriving with homemade cookies for the staff and volunteers. He had kind eyes and an easy laugh, and he treated everyone, from the director to the people they served, with the same dignity and warmth. "You're good at this," he told Sophia one day, as they were restocking shelves. "Talking to people, making them feel seen." Sophia shrugged. "I'm just being human." "Exactly," James said. "That's rarer than you think." They started talking during their shifts. James told her about his late wife, about how he'd fallen into depression after she died, about how volunteering had saved his life by giving him purpose again. "Darkness doesn't last forever," he said, "but you do have to keep showing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." One day, James mentioned that his former school was looking for someone to help with their communications and community outreach, managing social media, organizing events, connecting with parents. "It's not corporate marketing," he said carefully, "but it might be a good fit. If you're interested, I could put in a word." Sophia's first instinct was to say no, to list all the reasons she wasn't qualified, wasn't ready, would just fail again. But then she thought about all the small steps she'd taken over the past months, all the times she'd shown up when it would have been easier to hide. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Yeah, I'd like to try." The light returns. Sophia got the job at the school. It paid less than her corporate position had, but it came with something money couldn't buy: meaning. She spent her days telling stories about teachers who changed lives, about students overcoming challenges, about a community coming together to support each other. She loved it. Not every day was perfect. She still had moments of doubt, still had mornings when getting out of bed required every ounce of willpower she possessed. But those moments became less frequent, less consuming. She moved into a smaller, more affordable apartment. She adopted a rescue dog named Charlie, who forced her to take walks every day. She reconnected with old friends, slowly rebuilding the relationships she'd let fade during her darkest period. And she kept going to her support group, even though she no longer felt like she desperately needed it. Because she'd learned that healing isn't linear, and that community matters even when, especially when, you're doing okay. One evening, exactly 18 months after she'd stood on that balcony at 3 a.m., Sophia found herself back in that same spot. But this time, she wasn't thinking about endings. She was watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and pink, Charlie sleeping at her feet, a cup of tea warming her hands. She thought about everything she'd lost and everything she'd found, about the person she'd been and the person she was becoming, about how the darkest period of her life had somehow led her to this moment of quiet peace. The darkness hadn't lasted forever, just like her mother said, just like Dr. Martinez said, just like James said. It hadn't lasted forever because she hadn't let it, because she'd kept taking small steps even when she couldn't see where they were leading, because she'd accepted help when she needed it most, because she'd learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up again and again until you remember how to stand. Why darkness doesn't last forever. This isn't just a comforting platitude or wishful thinking. It's a fundamental truth about the human experience, backed by both neuroscience and lived reality. First, the nature of emotion itself. Our brains aren't designed to maintain any emotional state indefinitely. Even the darkest depression, the deepest grief, the most overwhelming anxiety, they exist in waves, not in permanent states. Neuroscience shows us that emotions are temporary chemical and electrical patterns in the brain. They feel permanent when we're inside them, but they physically cannot last forever. This doesn't minimize the pain. Sophia's depression was real, debilitating, dangerous. But understanding that emotions are waves, not permanent states, gave her something to hold on to during the worst moments. The knowledge that what she was feeling right now wouldn't be what she felt forever. Second, the power of small actions. Sophia didn't overcome her darkness in one dramatic moment. There was no single revelation that suddenly made everything better. Instead, she did small things, consistently, even when they felt pointless. She made her bed, she took a shower, she went for a walk, she showed up to therapy, she volunteered. Each action was tiny, insignificant on its own. But together, they created momentum. They built a structure that could hold her when she felt like falling apart. They proved to her, day by day, that she could still do things, still affect the world around her, still matter. In psychology, this is called behavioral activation, the practice of taking action even when you don't feel motivated, knowing that sometimes action precedes feeling rather than following it. Sophia didn't wait until she felt better to start living again. She started living in small ways, and eventually the feeling followed. Third, the necessity of connection. Sophia couldn't have done this alone. And that's not a failure. It's the most human thing about her story. Her mother showing up at sunrise, Dr. Martinez offering professional guidance, the support group providing community, James extending unexpected kindness, even Charlie the dog offering unconditional presence. We are not designed to weather darkness in isolation. We are social creatures, built for connection and interdependence. The myth of the self-sufficient individual who overcomes everything alone is not just unrealistic, it's harmful. It keeps people suffering in silence because they're ashamed to need help. Sophia's breakthrough came not when she figured everything out by herself, but when she finally let people in. When she stopped pretending she was fine and admitted she was drowning. That vulnerability, That willingness to be seen in her weakness was what allowed healing to begin. Fourth, the transformation through suffering. Here's something Sophia couldn't have understood while she was in the darkness. It was changing her, not destroying her, but transforming her. The woman who lost her job and her relationship, and nearly lost herself in the process, discovered reserves of strength she didn't know she possessed. She developed empathy born from her own suffering. She learned that her worth wasn't tied to her productivity or her relationship status. She found meaning in service and connection rather than achievement and acquisition. She wouldn't have chosen this path. If given the option, she would have avoided every moment of that pain. But having walked through it, she emerged different, not broken, but broken open. More compassionate, more resilient, more authentically herself. This doesn't mean suffering is good or necessary, but it does mean that when suffering comes, and it comes for all of us eventually, we have the capacity to be transformed by it rather than destroyed by it. Fifth, the choice to keep going. Perhaps most importantly, darkness doesn't last forever, because people like Sophia make the choice every single day to keep going. Not because they suddenly feel hopeful, not because they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but simply because they decide that today, right now, they will take one more breath, take one more step, hold on for one more moment. That choice is heroic. It deserves to be recognized as such. Every person battling depression, grief, trauma, or any form of darkness who chooses to keep living is performing an act of profound courage. Sophia stood on that balcony at 3 a.m. looking into the abyss. And she chose to answer her mother's phone call. She chose to accept help. She chose to take small steps. She chose, over and over again, to keep going even when she couldn't see the point. And that's why her darkness didn't last forever. So why doesn't darkness last forever? Because you are more resilient than you know. Because emotions, by their very nature, are temporary, even when they feel eternal. Because small actions, repeated consistently, create change. Because you are not meant to do this alone, and accepting help is strength, not weakness. Because suffering can transform us in ways we could never have imagined. Because every single day you have the power to choose to keep going. And that choice matters more than you can possibly understand. Sophia's story is one story among millions. Right now, someone somewhere is standing where she stood, in darkness so complete they can't imagine light ever returning. They feel alone. They feel hopeless. They feel like they've lost themselves beyond recovery. If that someone is you, I want you to hear this. You haven't. The darkness you're experiencing is real and painful, and I won't minimize it by pretending otherwise, but it's also temporary. You are still in there, underneath all that pain, and light, maybe just a small crack of it at first, will find its way back in. Your job isn't to fix everything at once. It's not to suddenly feel better or be okay. Your job is just to take the next small step. To reach out to one person, to do one thing today that moves you slightly closer to living rather than just surviving. Make your bed, take a shower, go for a 5-minute walk, call someone who loves you, eat one healthy meal, just one thing, and tomorrow, if you can, do it again. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You don't have to know how your story ends to keep writing the next sentence. And please, please remember, asking for help isn't giving up. It's refusing to give up. It's saying that your life matters enough to fight for, even when, especially when, you don't feel strong enough to fight alone. Darkness doesn't last forever, but you do. Your capacity for resilience, for healing, for finding meaning even in suffering, that's permanent. That's the part of you that no circumstance can take away. Sophia found her way through, and so can you. If this story resonated with you, if it gave you even a small spark of hope, please like this video. Your support helps stories like this reach others who need to hear them. Subscribe to What Truly Matters for more stories about resilience, hope, and the things that make life worth living. We share stories that speak to the soul, stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Share this video with someone who might be struggling right now. Sometimes the right story at the right time can change everything. You might be the person who delivers that story to someone who desperately needs it. And in the comments, please share your thoughts. Have you walked through your own darkness? What helped you find light again? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Let's create a community where we remind each other that we're not alone, and that darkness never lasts forever. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to Sophia's story and for carrying it with you into the world. If you're in darkness right now, hold on. Keep taking those small steps. Reach out. Let people help you. You matter more than you know. If you've emerged from darkness, remember what it felt like and extend compassion to those still fighting their way through. Share your light. Be the phone call at 3 a.m. Be the hand that reaches out. Because that's what truly matters, not success or achievement or any of the things we're taught to pursue. What matters is showing up for each other, being human together, remembering that we all struggle, we all suffer, and we all have the capacity to heal. The sun always rises, always. Until next time, remember, what truly matters is that you're here, you're trying, and you're not alone. And what truly matters to you?